Alright, so today I've got a little bit of a discussion that I wanted to make a video about, uh, which is basically for Magic the Dragon Knights in 1vxing and solo builds in general. Is Inferno better than Sorting Board, or is Sorting Board better than Inferno? I'm going to explain why I think that Sorting Board is better than Inferno, but I'm going to start with Inferno facts because I want to keep it I want to put all the facts about Inferno down first. Um, the first and most important thing about being having Inferno on the front bar is light attacks. You know, your light attacks scale off your magic stats, which is spell crit, spell damage, and maximum magic, as well as the CP points and magic damage done, and all that sort of thing. So you see my light attacks are pretty good if you compare it to Sorting Board, which I'm going to show you later. You can also buff it from spell damage and engulfing flames, as well as AoE drain, as you can see here, and it goes up way higher, as you can see, 3.6k. So you have that very high amount of single target damage done with Inferno on the front bar. Comparable to Sorting Board, you don't really have that much single target damage. So when it comes to just doing single target damage, just single target pressure, Inferno wins over Sorting Board. Another thing that makes Inferno stand out which is the Ancient Knowledge passive, increases your damage done with single target abilities by 8%, which is what I explained earlier. You have a lot of single target pressure because of the light attacks and that reason from the passive. You also have really cool ability, really cool passives like increase your chance to apply the burning, which does help your sustain and damage because burning it's a pretty thick dot, to be honest. You have all these other abilities that don't really matter much. I don't have this unlocked because I'm not using it on the front bar currently on this build. So these are all the facts that make Inferno stand out. Now I'm going to explain why I think Sorting Mode is better, and I'm going to keep this quick and short and nice and sweet. Basically, the first thing that Sorting Board has over Inferno is the bar space. You can't really run this bar space I'm doing right now here with Inferno because first of all, Coagulating Blood, you can't block cast it with Inferno front bar, because what happens if you block cast it with Inferno, you lose a lot of stamina and you don't even mitigate that much damage because it's Inferno. You don't have the Sorting Board passives. Another thing is you'd have to run AoE Drain on the front bar because most people who run Inferno on the front bar usually run either Resto or Sorting Board, so you don't really have enough space for AoE Drain on the back bar, so you're forced to run on the front bar. What that does is it kills your ability to run another offensive ability, like for example Burning Talons, Inhale, Deep Breath, Draw Essence, all these abilities that are pretty good. Whatever you want to run Eruption, you can, but with Inferno you can't because you need to run something that looks like this. So you see this bar setup right here, it doesn't have a burst heal, it doesn't have AoE damage capabilities from either Burning Talons or Deep Breath, but what you do have is a lot of single target damage, and what I said, just like I said before, Inferno wins when it comes to single target damage. But when it comes to dealing AoE damage, I think the Sorting Board is better. And I'm going to explain why it's better right now. First, let me just go back to my normal Sorting Board setup. As you can see here, block casting Coagulating Blood on the front bar with your Cauterize on the front bar too. What that does, you can hold block, use your offensive abilities, Talons, Fossilize, Whip, and if your health is going down pretty quick, all you have to do is Cauterize once. If you don't have it up, and then use Coagulating Blood. And what that does, all of this while you're block casting, you get healed for a huge amount of health, and what you can do is you can immediately go back to being offensive without any problems. If you were running Inferno, you'd have to not be blocking at all, and you're getting low, you have to waste time bar swapping, then holding block, then using Coagulating Blood. And usually when it comes to back bars for sounding board, it usually looks like this. Shit. It usually looks like this. Something like this or like this. So what you see here is you can't run cauterize on the back bar when it comes to inferno front bar, because if you do, you're gonna lose your crit on your inferno bar. I hope that I'm explaining this right. So if you have, let's think about this as my sounding board bar and this as my inferno bar, just to make it a little bit more believable. I'm just gonna switch weapons real quick just to make this example easier to understand. As you can see here, I just switched to front bar inferno, and as you can see, I have my LED drain, I have my cauterize, I have my fossilize, burning embers, all my single target abilities. And then on the back bar, what happens is I lose crit on my coagulating blood. So I have less chances to get a huge crit heal than I do on the front bar. And another thing that you can't do is you can't really do the cauterize into coagulating blood combo, which is pretty good, to be honest. It's pretty cheap. It's better than major mending. But yeah, so I mean, if that doesn't make you want to switch to sonar mode immediately, I don't know what will. Actually, I do have a lot of other reasons. That's not just it. Let me just go back to my normal sonar mode ice tester bar space. Just looking like this, and switch my weapons. So the next point that I want to talk about is CCs and your offensive capabilities while you're 1vxing, as well as defensive capabilities. So if you're attacking people, let's say there's 3 people in front of me right here, and I'm holding block, I'm attacking them using burning talons, whip, there's a Templar behind me, and he suddenly decides to use a javelin on me, and I can't get stunned because I'm holding block. The only abilities that can stun you are Streak, Fear, Turn Undead, and a Fossilize from another MagDK or StamDK. Any other stun in the game does not go through you when you're holding block. Now, if you were on the Inferno front bar and you were killing those 3 people in front of you, going on the offensive with your Bat Swarm, you're ready to kill all of them, suddenly the Templar stuns you with a javelin and your whole combo is ruined. You have to go kite, get resources, get your ult back, and then try again. So when it comes to defensive capabilities and offensive capabilities, it's maximized when, in 1vxing. When it comes to 1vxing, of course the context matters in these type of comparisons. In 1vxing, Sonorborn wins when it comes to overall AoE damage, offensive capabilities, and defensive capabilities at the same time. So what that helps you do is you pop Bat Swarm and then use your Burning Talons, use your Fossilized Whip at the same time. You're low on health, use Coagulating Blood. You have everything access to you on the front bar. Of course, you have your LED Drain on the back bar. You have all these other abilities. But when it comes to utilizing the most amount of defensive capabilities and offensive capabilities at the same time, and both those abilities, if you can do both those at the same time for 1vxing, you're gonna win almost every fight. Another thing that I want to talk about is I talked about Inferno having a lot of single target damage because of the light attacks. Well, you can do something similar with Sonar Board, which is the light attack skill Bash. It's not as good because it still doesn't scale off your maximum magic and spell crit and all that sort of shit. But it's still good damage. You can see the light attack Bash is about 2k if it doesn't crit, 2.3k or something like that, 2.4. If you do it like this, light attack skill Bash, light attack skill Bash, light attack skill Bash, it's pretty good pressure. But if you look at my stam bar, it's draining the shit out of it. And that's a problem. It's only recommended to use the light attack skill Bash when your target is very low and you just want to get that tiny bit more damage to finish them off. You don't really want to do this at all times when you're running Sonar Board, because it will just drain your stamina. Another thing that I want to point out is if you do decide to go Sonar Board, I highly suggest you learn how to manage your stamina better, because holding block at all times, it's not gonna work. You have to learn when to leave your block, and you have to learn when to gain it back. You have to learn when to fossilize whip someone once and then heavy attack to get your stam back. You have to learn a lot of things to take the most amount of Sonar Board. It's very strong. Blocking is very, very strong. because of the reasons that I've explained just a bit ago. But that's pretty much it. I don't think I've missed any points. I think I've explained everything. If I did miss anything, I will be sure to put it in the description below. But I want to keep this a discussion. I want to know from Magic Dragon Knights, what do you prefer? Do you prefer Inferno? Do you prefer Soaring Board? Do you run dual wield in 2020? I want to know all your reasonings, and I hope we can, have a nice talk in the comment section below. That's all I wanted to say. I hope you have a good one. See ya.